Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 161. Jim Kinsey, cameraman Jimmy, making music, filming, and hunting the big sky country. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Today's show is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey folks, this is Dean Vanier with Northwoods Common Sense, and you're listening to my favorite and most informative hunting podcast show on the internet, Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
I'm Trent Cole.
And I'm Richie Elam from Blitz TV.
And you're listening to Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Podcast.
This is Jana Waller from Spellbound TV. And you're listening to my favorite podcast on Stitcher, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Dusty Phillips, your co-host of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. Hey, I want to thank everybody for hitting the play button. And wherever you're listening at, we hope you enjoy the show. And I'm joined here with the host, Jay Scott. Jay, what's happening in New Hampshire, brother?
The dew point's right around 70 degrees, and I've shut off all the fans in the studio just to make sure I have better sound quality and I don't have to spend hours in the editing room trying to get that dull, low-grade fan sound out of the show. So I'm like, I got sweat like pouring down the side of my face while we do this recording.
Yeah, no kidding, man. It's definitely... It's hot here in Ohio, too. I mean, it's just miserable hot. You go outside, and I was feeding the calves, and, man, I was just come out of the barn, I was soaking wet.
Yeah. It's that hot. It's not that hot, dry heat stuff. It's the high dew point, that 70-degree dew point and what dew point is, as you probably know, is when water collects and starts to pool up on your skin. That's basically what it is. So
it's just like sticky, miserable. I work outdoors for my full-time job daily, and man, it's just been rough. It's been a tough week of work, and I gotta say that getting back from Florida this week on a little mini vacation was nice, but man, this heat here in Ohio can go on away.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of this stuff, and I think it's going to move out probably next week. But this is the stuff I hate, and I'm so glad it doesn't happen during deer season. That's probably part of the reason I like deer season, because high heat and high dew points and high humidity don't go well with me. Like, it's just not my thing.
I don't think it goes well with a lot of hunters. That's right. I think that could be a factual statement for a lot of hunters.
I like the cool, cold, crispness, dry. That's my thing, and so I couldn't hunt if it was like this all year round. Just wouldn't work out.
Yeah, today on the podcast, Jay, we're going to get into a little bit of talking about TV production and a little bit of music. We got a variety pack going on with Jim Kinsey, who's the producer of Skullbound TV.
Right, and he's hunting those tall mountains out there out west, so where I don't think they ever get high dew points. So it's probably beautiful out there. I mean, it seems like a sportsman's paradise.
Yeah, so, big sky country out in Montana.
Yes, sir, exactly. And we're going to speak with Jim. And if you don't know who Jim is the partner of Jana Waller, and together they do the Skullbound TV, as you just mentioned. We love talking to Jana. She's been a guest on our show twice. And each and every time we can't say enough about Jana. She's just a great person. And
yeah, she's always got a lot going on,
yes.
Helping others, man. That speaks volume in our eyes.
Yes. Well, after talking to Jim, I realized that they might be the perfect couple. Like they're both like super high quality individuals, talented, great hunters, great liaisons for the hunting community. They're good spokespeople and representatives for everything we believe in.
Yeah, for sure. And, and something that a lot of hunters are the same and see eye to eye with, and that they give back, and that's something that, like I said, it speaks volumes to us, that when you can, go out with veterans and hunt and do things of that nature. They're just, both of them are always involved with some kind of organization They're taking out wounded veterans, and man, I tell you, they're just doing a lot for others, not just being selfish about what they got going on.
Yeah, they're givers. What's interesting about both of them is that, and we talk about this a little bit in the show, is that Jim's a super technical guy. He was a helicopter mechanic in the Marine Corps, and he can rattle off like all the different models of every camera he owns quickly. And he knows what each one of them does. So he's got this super technical background, kind of this hardcore guy. But then there's this soft guy that's like dabbling in music and arts and being a filmographer and being he's won awards for filmography, which is amazing to think that you can have somebody that well-rounded in the world. I just usually don't find that whole person.
Right, for sure.
Yep. So we're going to speak to Jim in just a little bit, but before we do, let's turn to Brandon Hammonds from the Take Aim Outdoor podcast with the Deer News.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Brandon Hammonds from Take Aim Outdoor podcast with the Deer News for August 13th, 2016. In our first story, scientists want to use cougars to control New Jersey's deer population. The story was first seen on New Jersey News 12 website. Scientists want to introduce cougars into New Jersey's ecosystem in an attempt to lower deer population. This is after a study published by the Society of Conservation concluded that thinning deer populations with cougars in the eastern U.S. would reduce vehicle collisions and therefore save human lives. Other experts feel that this could do more harm than good and create a dangerous situation. That means that cougars are going to have to move in where deer are, which is suburbia, says Tidor Whitman of the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum. I'm suspecting there are going to be some people not thrilled with the fact there is a 100-pound big cat living wild right in their backyard. Whitman says although cougars rarely attack humans, pets would be at risk considering the army of cougars that it would take to thin the deer herd enough to reduce automobile collisions. Unless you bring in literally thousands of cats and train them to eat only female deer, this is not going to work, he says. Bobcats and cougars once were widespread throughout New Jersey, according to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. However, neither is on the endangered species list. Dana Bonet, a follower of the site, commented, saying, "Good luck with that. The answer to the overall population of deer is not more predatory species, which might well take a child as well as a deer, but more deer hunting." Our next story takes us to Iowa. County Board heeds a request to replace suicidal deer. The supervisors of Mitchell County have decided to remove a roadside warning of suicidal deer after reviewing a request from the city of Osage, Iowa. The sign is meant to be an attention getter for motorists driving through these areas with high deer population. The sign also has gained major criticism from some who thought the sign was created in poor taste and makes light of those with mental illness. Osage Mayor Steve Cooper had asked for the sign's removal, and the board agreed. The sign will be replaced with a more conventional message. However, an identical sign in the nearby neighboring town will remain in place. Our next story, archers to cull deer again in Mount Lebanon. The story was first reported by Janice Crompton of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. The Mount Lebanon commissioners recently approved the continuation of a culling program in late 2015 and early 2016. An archery and sharpshooting hunt culled more than 200 whitetail deer as part of the effort to reduce the population by 50% over the next 4 years. Despite the cull, however, reported deer vehicle collisions still on the rise. In the first half of 2016, 47 crashes were reported, a significant increase over the 18 reported during the same time last year. Commissioners grilled Police Chief Aaron Loft about the methods used to gather traffic data. We've maintained the same consistent program. We only listed confirmed vehicle-involved incidents, Chief Loft said. Others suggested that the increased awareness by drivers could have caused more reporting of deer-related collisions. After much debate, commissioners voted 4-0 to pay nonprofit wildlife management company White Buffalo $9,000 to conduct an archery hunt again in September 2016. Residents spoke both for and against the program. Tony DiNicola, the founder and president of White Buffalo, said he expects many of the same archers who participated in the previous. This year's call is set to take place in parts of Mount Lebanon Public Golf Course, McNeely Park, and Robb Hollow Park. Our final story brings us back to Michigan again. Another lawsuit over Ann Arbor's deer call dismissed in the Court of Claims. The story was first reported by Ryan Stanton for the Ann Arbor News. A lawsuit brought against the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for permitting a deer call in Ann Arbor has been dismissed. Judge Mark Boonstra tossed out the suit filed earlier this year in Michigan Court of Claims. The lawsuit was filed on February 12th by Ann Arbor residents for public safety. This group claimed that the DNR exceeded its authority by permitting the city to hire sharpshooters to kill deer in Ann Arbor parks and nature areas. Boonstra stated that the Court of Claims lacked subject matter jurisdiction over the claims and dismissed the case. Judge Boonstra had also denied the plaintiff's request for a temporary restraining on February 18th while the first call was underway. City Attorney Stefan Postma received a copy of the order dismissing the case on Monday, August 8th. The DNR authorized a call permit pursuant to authority granted under state law. Boonstra wrote the permit included several conditions, including restrictions on authorized shooters, whom the city planned to retain to conduct a call, and that the city waive local ordinance on firearm use within the areas designated by the permit. Other lawsuits of similar content relative to this call efforts have also been dismissed. This concludes this week's Deer News. If you have any questions or have suggestions for topics, please email us at news@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Brandon Hammonds from the Take Aim Outdoor Podcast with this week's Deer News.
Thanks to Brandon Hammonds for the Deer News. Without further ado, here's Jim Kinsey.
Jim Kinsey, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, my friend?
Just kicking it here in western Montana. What a great place to live and work from.
It's like an outdoorsman's paradise. How do you even stand yourself?
I wake up every day and I pinch myself and say I've got the best job on the planet. I wake up and can pick up a video camera and tell great stories and engage the audience. I love my job and I love where I live. I'm surrounded by mountains to the west, to the east, north, south. I mean, we're right in the heart of the Bitterroot Valley here, and I absolutely love it here.
It's the big country. It's the wild country.
Big sky country.
Big sky country.
Big sky, yeah. Right. It is. If you look around, I mean, we have a massive sky, and it makes good for some time lapses too.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, as a filmographer, you would notice that kind of stuff.
Yeah, always looking for that shot, always looking for, any kind of, the wildlife that we have in this area. We're so blessed to be able to film mule deer, like in my backyard. We have elk that come down here in the winter and, kind of hang out on the slope just behind the house here. And so, every day is just filled with adventure. You never know what you're going to see here.
That's awesome. So you're in the middle of the big sky out there. Sportsman's paradise. And where did life start for you? I mean, did you end up there, or was this just is this a place along the trail, so to speak?
Well, that's a great question. I moved out to Montana when I was 17, and my mom and dad were I was born and raised on the East Coast. I was a farm kid in Maryland, and my mom and dad decided to move west, and I had 2 years of high school to go, so packed up, moved out west, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It actually literally changed my life. I was able to, I was hunting, I killed my first deer in Maryland in the farm fields, and, I moved out here, and that first summer I was like, wow. I started looking around, and it was like, there's deer, there's whitetail, mule deer, there's elk, mountain lion, bobcat, all these things that, I didn't get a chance to really chase back east. It was like the Serengeti, so to speak.
Right. There's a whole variety of species of animals that you can chase and have fun with.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I hope to be in Maryland killing my first buck in about 30 days.
Oh, very cool. So you're going to be hunting over on the Eastern Shore or some part of that?
I believe so, yeah. It's just
nice.
Somewhere just outside of D.C., which blows my mind that you can be that close to a major city and still have game in front of you. But I guess some of those suburban areas are some of the best kept secrets in America sometimes.
They are, absolutely. So I moved out west, and that's kind of how I got here, and then kind of went from there. So.
All right. So where did Jana come into the picture?
That's a great story. So both of us are outdoor writers, and I had written an article called Kingdom of the Brown Bear. I had filmed the number 10 at the time archery brown bear being taken on the Alaskan Peninsula. And, the month before, she had written an article called Independence Day in Bowhunter. And so we were talking over social media that I was like, I had said, hey, I just got done writing an article. I see she'd posted about her article, Independence Day. And I said, hey, I had an article in the new issue that just came out this month. Check it out. And that was it. Put one message out to her. And about 30 days later, I hit her back and said, hey, did you ever read that article? I read yours. She was like, oh, yeah, I read it. That's great. And at the time, I was going on a writer's hunt to Nebraska, and we were going to go out and do some filming and some turkey hunts and such, so-and-so. And so she came down, met me, and we went out and killed 2 turkeys the same morning out of a blind with our bows. And that was in Nebraska. And she ended up killing the biggest bird in that camp out of all the hundreds of clients that come through there. She killed a massive, Miriam that had like 1.5 inch spurs. And so we just hit it off. That was it. That's kind of how we, met. And then we long distance dated. And then about 6 months later, she moved out west, and we've been kicking it since.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
So you met in a turkey blind, basically.
But basically, yeah. And the funny thing was when she had killed her bird, we went out, recovered it, and we had just pulled it in the blind. I was like, well, let's wrap this thing up. We should probably head back over, to camp and kind of get settled in for, a hunt, in the evening or something. And about the time I was stepping out, we heard all these jakes running down the line, and they were, basically, they were chasing a longbeard and kind of beating on him a little. And so I jumped back in, and he came walking across at 27 yards, stopped, and I hammered him. And so we both, that's kind of, I was just about ready to step out, and I was about halfway out when I stepped back in. And so we both killed those birds that morning, and it was just such a great time. And we both wrote some articles about that and did a video. And then I was leaving a former production company at the same time. And so right after that, when she did move out here, we decided, hey, let's think about, starting and building the show. And that's kind of how, it's a long story, but we did come up with the idea of, taking her passion for painting skulls, conservation, and kind of rolled it into, Skullbound TV, which is what, today. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. So it was like love at first kill.
Pretty much.
All right.
Jana is a killer.
She is a killer. She is a predator of the highest caliber. Absolutely, she is.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're a talented guy, Jim. You're
I appreciate that.
Filmographer. You're a musician, and you're a songwriter. So it sounds like you like to tell stories in a lot of different mediums.
I do. Telling a story with a camera in hand, and you're picturing, basically painting a canvas. And each week you've got to keep your, the general public, I guess, your fans, I guess, telling them a good story and keep them coming back for every week, never knowing what's going to come. And it's very, it's a fun way to tell stories. And I love drawing human emotion, whether I'm doing it with a pen in hand or a camera in hand. And it's kind of funny all the interesting people that I've met through Skullbound TV over the last 5 seasons. Each person that I've met has had a unique story. And the whole songwriting thing is a little over 2 years ago. I had the co-host of, I think it's Animal Planet. What's the Call of the Wild Man? So his name, Neil James. Right. So Neil James was coming through Missoula. Neil James hits me up on Facebook. At the time, I didn't know who he was. And he said, hey, Jim, Jana, I'm going to be in Missoula, and I don't have a will call till 12 o'clock if you want to catch up and have breakfast. So I said, Jana, who's this Neil James guy? So we went through the, Facebook and looked him up. I'm like, hey, that's the co-host of Call of the Wild Man with Ernie, the hit series. Right. He's in town. They're shooting this deal. So we went and met him. And at the end of the breakfast, he's like, have you ever tried writing music? Have you ever tried writing songs? I'm like, no, I never really did. It's just a short story with a melody, like kind of a poetry. I'm like, I can do that. Right. I started thinking about the interesting people I've met along the way. And so that's kind of where the songwriting came into play.
Very cool. So when you meet a person, how do you decide what story you're going to tell? How do you break it down?
How do you break it down? That's a great question. But the truth of it is in all stories are wonderful, but some stories have a little more, I guess, overall, more people, I guess, would gravitate to that story. And one in particular, serviceman, a good friend of mine, is Clint Romachet, Medal of Honor recipient. We met him it'd be 3 years ago. We did a coyote show with him. We were hunting with mountain cur dogs and stuff. But if anybody knows Clint Romachet, Clint was awarded the highest honor, service medal in the nation, the Medal of Honor, and was awarded that, or received that, I guess is a better way to say that. He received the Medal of Honor for actions in October 3rd, 2009, the Battle of Kamdash at Outpost Kop Keating, and he lost 8 of his men in that battle. But so we did a whole, coyote show, predator management, helping save fawns, to put our, keep our big bucks out there, the mule deer and antelope and so forth, and did this really great hunt with him. But the heart of the storyline was telling what he went through in that 13-hour battle. And, he had one fight to win. And so I started like literally one of the first songs out of the gate. Actually, that was the second or third song we wrote was that song, was called Red Platoon, about his, the men from his platoon and what they went through. And we wrote this really cool song, and it was just like basically a short story with a melody. I work with multi-platinum producers out of Nashville that helped me bring that to fruition. And currently it's, I guess, on Amazon, it's number 2 for nonfiction download for the audiobook version.
Is that right?
Yes, that song. We have 2 of our songs that made that audiobook, the Red Platoon audiobook. There's a hard copy too, which went number 9 on the New York Times bestseller. But Penguin Random House came to us and said, "Hey, we'd like to, have 2 of your songs on the audiobook version. Are you game?" We're like, "Yes." Nice. So that's kind of that was a story that really inspired me, and I think it's something that most people, I would hopefully that most of the listeners would actually maybe think about, downloading or listening to, whether you buy the hard copy or not. It's a story of, an amazing American soldier that went through hell and back and lived to tell about it.
Gotcha. Fascinating story. Do you think, are you able to jump from writing an article to writing a song to working on a script for a TV show? Is that all the same thing, or is it?
There's a little bit more to it. I think, it is similar, I guess, in a way. You've got long format, short format. You've got to really think about, like, when I write for, like a song, for instance, I write something that's real short format, but engages all people from all walks of life. It doesn't matter if you're a surfer in California, if you're a logger in the Northwest. That song has to reach and speak to you, because that's what number 1 hits do. They have to be able to kind of, like, I guess, cover that whole spectrum. And so writing for a song is a little different than, saying, writing an article for like a magazine. Then, that's quite a bit different for me. I have to put the reader in the middle of what I remember, the smells of the forest, the blood dripping off my hand while I'm skinning the notch in the tag, the beautiful, sunrise. I have to put them right there like they were there. Completely different type of writing, I believe. Real descriptive, a little bit different. No melody needed, I hope that you're sitting there, shooting that caribou with me, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, writing a script for television, a lot of the times, I write voiceover for commercials, and I kind of key in on points that, that kind of help just sell that product for the potential, my sponsor, I guess. It's a little bit different for that, but it's all similar. Just, you got to be able to tell, engage, your audience, whether it's visual or, writing, storytelling. So that's it.
Gotcha. How much writing goes into outdoor television? It doesn't seem like there'd be a whole lot, because the script is before you, it seems like.
Well, I'll tell you, this is interesting you asked me this question. So check this out. So like this week, we're working on a show, our first one out of the gate. Jana kills a really big mule deer, and my brother Al, he kills a big muley. And so what we'll do is we'll go into the studio, sit down, and we'll look at all the footage, and we'll kind of try to say, okay, how are we going to tell this story? Her and I'll sit down. And Jana will sit down with a pen in hand, and she will, what we call, write a spine interview. We'll work together on it, but she does a majority of the writing on the spines, and she'll say, this is what I'm thinking, how we want to tell it. So then we call the spine, it's like what supports the entire show. It's how you get from point A to Z.
Right.
And so we'll sit down, she'll write it out, and it'll really, really tell the story and how we can get from, the different scenes, all the way to the end of the show. And I think that's a really it's an industry standard, but we also try to change it up a little bit with, on the flies interviews and things of that nature to really kind of bring it all together.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, Jim, you're a veteran, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
Yep. Served in 1st Marines out of Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. I was a helicopter mechanic. I worked on the CH-53 Echoes.
Oh, wow.
Or Super Stallions, I guess they call them. And the CH-46 Sea Knights was my secondary MOS, and I was also aviation welder.
That's amazing. It sounds like you have a mechanical, technical background.
Yes.
And you're a Marine, but yet
yes.
You kind of have this soft side too, where you have to tell a story that people can relate to, which is a human side of everything.
Yeah, I think all artists have that soft side. If you can't, I think people won't tell you that, but Marines do cry.
Right.
I really enjoyed my time in the service. My grandfather was in the Army Air Corps before it was the Air Force. My uncle served in the Marine Corps in Vietnam. My brother was Army military police. I served in the Marines, and so I have a family history of working kind of in that whole the being in the service. And then my grandfather and my great-grandfather actually invented the first prosthesis, which is, the first mechanical arm, which is in the Smithsonian. And then my grandfather kind of got into aviation, and that's kind of where my whole play came in. He kind of helped invent transatlantic flight. So I come from a background of inventors / military personnel, and I kind of, although I like working mechanically on helicopters and I loved all that, it really wasn't something I wanted to dive into as a career, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense to me now why Jana went to you to set up the Skype feed when we wanted to interview Jana.
Yes. I actually, I'm mechanically inclined, but I'm also like anything to do with electronic gadgetry or the latest gear for cameras or RAIDs, hard drive, all that. That's me. I get it. So that's how my brain works.
That makes sense. All right.
Yes.
So you seem like a pretty easygoing guy, though. Does anything ever get you revved up? Like anything get you angry?
Anti-hunters, they just don't, I guess they get me revved up sometime, but I've got thick skin over the last, so many years that, I pretty much ban and block them off Facebook or Instagram or any of Twitter. I guess if I could, just tell the anti-hunting crowd, the people that don't understand that, hunters are animal lovers. We give back more to the environment and the habitat and herds and flocks than they would care to believe. And, so I guess, I always want to just come out, and say that, we love animals. We are here to manage them. We hunt them. It's not about the kill. It's about just getting out there and enjoying, being out in nature and camaraderie with your brothers and, bringing up your kids in the great outdoors. That's where it's at. I'm out videoing, so much of the time that I love time lapse. I love the sun going down. I love filming a big buck in velvet. I don't want to just kill that deer. I want to film them and check them out and share that with, my viewers. So to me, I guess at the end of the day, I just would put a shout out to say, before you go casting a stone and looking at us with a negative eye, really dig in and see that we actually give back a ton with all the money we raised with the Pittman-Robertson Act and the amount of money we put back into on the ground to, for habitat restoration and so forth. So I guess that's where I'd really like to, it's hard to get into it with them on Facebook or Instagram. Right. It's easier just to ban and block them, but that's what I'd love for their, and the viewers are listening out there, that they would understand that we love animals.
I think that they don't listen, generally speaking. Like you could talk about this ad nauseum to them, and there's about 1% of that group that would probably engage and listen to you, but the rest of them they don't listen to your message at all. And it's that other group, the neutral people, the ones that don't really hunt but don't really care if you do. Those are the ones that I think we got to focus on, generally speaking.
Right. They may have not grown up in a house that hunted, but they're not, against it. They just never really tried it. Exactly. Jana's all about, one of the biggest things that I love about her is she's always, kind of reaching out to those young men and women and people that may have never grown up in that household and trying to engage with them and let them know that, hey, if you're not, maybe you don't want to pick up a bow the first time or a rifle, but go out with your husband or wife or whatever and just, go out and just check it out and see what it's like to just be out there. Right. I mean, that's enough to just get you hooked alone just to be outside, so. Yeah,
I always feel like that if you haven't done that, you're kind of missing an experience and lesson in life.
Absolutely.
That you need to have as a human being.
Agreed.
And if you haven't done that, there's a whole component to life that you're really just blew by, like it wasn't important. And
sure.
It's disappointing if you do that.
Agreed.
Let's talk a little bit about the filmography stuff, or talk more about the filmography stuff.
Well, sure. So, the big thing anymore, nowadays is, everybody's starting to talk about shooting in 4K and, and 8K and, 4K is like 4 times the resolution of high definition and you've got to have this and that. And I do shoot quite a bit in 4K, but I'll shoot a lot in, in what we call 1080, which is just high definition.
Sure.
And, when we deliver to the network, we deliver, a high definition file. And, so everything we shoot is pretty much high def. We may scale down some 4K footage, but, at the end of the day, we're just storytellers. We want to get out there and basically tell the best story we can. And, Jana makes it I always call her the one hit wonder, because when we sit down and we do an interview, or if we're on the fly and she's, she improvises and comes up with some of the most amazing, quotes and things that I would have never thought of. I mean, let's put it this way. She makes me a way better producer than that I should be. It's her that, that the two of us working together as a team to really, put out a show every week that people, I think, enjoy to watch. And I feel blessed to be able to do that. And, over the last 5 years, we've had some of the most amazing hunts. One in particular that I'm talking about right now, I've been editing all week. We went on a hunt last year. So we went on 2 hunts, but I'll start with the first hunt, which was Jana and my brother Al. We hunted eastern Montana, and the very first show out of the gate for season 6 is this mule deer hunt we went on, and we spotted this really nice buck off in the distance about 1.5 miles away, and you could see his frame from 1.5 miles. And so we shot all the the stuff we needed to get to long lens stuff to get so you could see the buck, and then on the fly, Jana tells, hey, we got to make our way 1.5 miles to him, and filming along the way with GoPros to get some kind of like rugged looking real life reality like style shots to get us to the buck. And we get up on this deer. He's I think we get 275 yards from him, and he's, unbeknownst to him, we make our way through the coulees and we creep over the edge, and there he is, and he's kind of feeding, not really paying attention. He has 3 does. It's the rut, it's perfect. So Jana's toting the 26 Nosler, which is, their quote is flat out, lights out. It's running 100, right. 142 grain, long range AccuBond, and it hits hard, like Thor's hammer. And so, once everything was dialed in, everything was set up, it's just point on, just hold on the deer. It's flat out to 415 yards. So, she holds right on the buck, and, it's unbelievable. And I always say women are better shots than men. They just kind of think everything through. They stay calm. It's a proven fact. You can look into it. I'm not going to say all men, because people be like, what's up? But the truth is, overall, I think women seem to be a better shot, especially in a situation like this. And man, she dropped the hammer on this deer, and he just folded in his tracks and never moved. The does bounced up, looked around like, what's up, and went off. And of course, we started to just celebrate, and how incredible of a, first morning out, being able to, shoot a 164 inch, 26 inch wide 5x5 mule deer. Beautiful buck, and so then we tag the deer, we debone him, cape them for the mount, and put it in 2 CF13s from Tenzing. They're like the carbon fiber packs that basically go in and you can come out with a really crazy load. And then my brother packed out a bunch of debone meat, and I had my camera and everything. We packed that back out. We get to the truck, it's like noon. My brother's got a tag. So he's like, we dump everything in the cooler, and then we dive back off into the Badlands, and we jump in about 4 miles, and boom, he spots this great big buck in his bed. Well, this buck's 650 yards away, kind of facing us. The wind's kind of good for us, but there's a lot of eyes kind of looking our way, and we're like, okay, we got to go back down this ridge, and we're losing daylight. We only got about an hour and a half to make a play on this deer, and so we move around, cut back down this ridge. About 40 minutes later, we're sitting 100 yards, not even that, 60 yards from this thing.
Wow.
Off the bipod, waiting for him to get out of his bed. So we're waiting and waiting, and this is a thick buck. Like, he goes straight up, 5x5, just heavy, mule deer.
Yeah. And
so I'm like, I've got, I have to ease up with the camera. I mean, when you're filming and you have a camera in your hand, throw everything out that as a deer hunter, because now you've got to be so careful, so cautious. Your tripod head, when you're leveling, it might squeak. I mean, so many things can go wrong, and I was able to, just without getting right up behind him, I kind of just elevated my camera, leveled it out quietly, and I zoom in, and it's beautiful. I'm right over his shoulder. Here's this 170-inch mule deer staring at us. He knows something's up, but wind's good.
Right.
And so we start throwing a few coyote calls, yip, yip, yip. And he stands up, and my brother hits him with a 340 Weatherby, and it was lights out.
Nice.
It was a beautiful, beautiful buck. We went down and celebrated, and we deboned him, tagged him, and we walked out, and we did 12.6 miles that day, killed 2 bucks, 26,000 and change steps. Yeah, it was one of those days.
Yeah, so, that's a good day. Yes, it's pretty hardcore too.
It's tough. I mean, there's no roads there. It's just, you go in, and wherever you shoot that animal, you've got to be able to come out with them. And so it's tough. It's a tough hunt.
Yeah.
When you go on a hunt like that, Jim, how much footage do you actually need to record to make a full episode?
Okay, so for this particular episode, I would say I went through, I probably shot 500 gigs, which would equate to, I want to say maybe 15 hours of footage or 12 hours somewhere. Just I shoot all day long with multiple cameras. So I'm running my one Sony camera, I'm running the GoPro, I'm running my bigger camera, my FS7. I'm running multiple cameras, so I've got a heavy pack already, because I've got to be able to film all the different scenes we need. And then when I come out, I'm packing part of a deer, my cameras, and the tripod. So, my day is long. I mean, it's on that particular day, it was, I would say, we got a lot done in one day, but, normally it doesn't go down like that. Normally I'm there for a couple, 3-4 days, or, to film, maybe an episode or maybe even a week, depending on what we're filming. That day I was rolling all day long. Pretty much everything we were doing, I just rolled and just changed out batteries. So, but I got a lot shot, and I've got a beautiful 2 muleys going down in a 22 and a half minute program for our first show out of the gate for 2017.
Gotcha. Wow, that's a lot of footage for one episode.
Yeah, and the thing is, the more I always say, I overshoot everything. Jenna's like, man, you shoot so much. And the cool thing is at the end of the day, I have a lot to draw from. I can go back and get the cutaways, the beauty shots, the B-roll I need to tell the story, cinematically, I guess, to kind of engage our viewer and so forth. But it definitely adds up. I mean, I've got, I don't even know, 30 terabytes or the storage sitting in my office or more that I drop footage to. So yeah.
You never know when you're going to need to fall back and find something to place in. Am I understanding that right? That all work?
Absolutely, yes. Because sometimes you may need a cutaway of a cactus, or maybe you filmed a horny toad, and you're like, oh, that'd be kind of a cool thing to just have across. If you watch some of the bigger shows on Nat Geo and Discovery, they are constantly pulling stock footage from their library to tell a story, and sometimes, let's face it, I can tell that wasn't shot in the same lighting conditions or the same location, although that species may be there. You can just be like, well, that's stock footage. You just know. But, as a storyteller, you need those little bits and pieces to help tell that story, to keep that story flowing. So,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's always my word to the wise is always overshoot it. That way you have more to work with than you having to like scrape by and like have a show that may not be as strong suited as it could be.
Yeah, it makes sense if you want to do your best work and. You want every single Crayola crayon you can get. You don't want the 8-pack. You don't want the 24. You want the 128 or the 240 pack.
Absolutely.
Crayolas to pick from to make this thing right.
That's exactly what I'm. That's a great analogy. That's what I was trying to get at. Right. I wish I just didn't think of the Crayolas.
That's why they gave you crayons in
that's right.
elementary school.
Absolutely.
So you could be a filmmaker later in life. That's exactly what it was. So what's the biggest challenge that you face when you're out there? It seems like you kind of sit back and you see the final cut and all the footage, and it all looks like a well polished piece. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be some things that go wrong out there.
Absolutely. I can tell you I was on a mountain lion hunt, and we were in wolf country, and so we had a big mountain lion tree, and I had a tag, and one of the houndsmen, he had a tag. It was in his area, so he was going to, shoot the lion if we got to it. So we got to this really steepy, super steep canyon that dropped off about probably about 1,500 vertical, like super steep, and it was snowy. Well, with wolves in the area, when they hear a dog barking, they think, a hound or whatever. To them, it's just another wolf, and it's in their area, and it's competition. So they'll come in to the tree and grab all the hounds and kill them before you get there. So I'm standing on the edge of this cliff face, and these guys are like, well, we'll drive back around 10 miles and meet you at the bottom. We'll hike up. Can you drop off here? I'm like, yeah, I guess, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the wolves are going to come and get your dogs, and I've got to get down to this tree. And so I took off with the tripod, slung over my shoulder with my big camera. I think I had an EX3 at the time, Sony EX3. And so I go bombing down, kind of, how you do the side hill shuffle. And you kind of change to the left side of your boot and then your right side of your boot. And I'm making hay to get down here, and I'm dropping off this super steep slope, and my feet go out from underneath me, and boom, out the viewfinder gets busted off. I fall flat out hard, and my microphone goes flying, and I'm sitting here going, wow, did I just do that? Why didn't I put my camera away? And of course, I shouted some obscenities, and they echoed off the canyon walls. Of course, nobody else was around to hear me, but I was really mad. And so I collected myself. I grabbed all the parts of my camera, and I luckily had a second camera in my pack. Normally, and I always carry, I try to have a GoPro and a main camera, but this time I had an SLR. I think it was a Canon 5D Mark II with a 1:300 Sigma lens or whatever it was. And I was able to, I get down there, and they're like, where, Jana and this other guy had come up, the houndsman come up the trail, and he's like, where's your big camera? What happened? I'm like, well, let's just put it this way. It's in my pack, and I have to use the second camera. They're like, oh, did you fall? I'm like, yes. And $1,500 worth of damage. So, at the end of the day, it cost me, $1,500 out of my pocket, but I had a secondary camera. So equipment failure, I think, is to answer your question, Jay, is $1,500 in damage, to a camera. It may not seem like a lot, but, as a producer for television, we don't make a ton of money. We are always constantly upgrading our equipment, trying to stay ahead of the competition, trying to tell good stories with the latest or whatever. And I think equipment failure is one of the things. Wireless mics go out all the time.
Right.
They might go out while you're in the middle of a dialogue, a critical piece of dialogue that you can't repeat because someone may be crying and telling their story of how they killed their first buck or whatever. And you're like, hey, could you say that again? My battery went out. You know what I mean? So equipment failure, I think, is one of the number one things, that happens when we're out filming.
It seems to me that you're more, not that you're not in the elements when you're out on the East Coast and the Midwest, but it seems more like perhaps more tree stand hunting isn't going to be exposed to elements. Like you can kind of take care of that. You can kind of take care of your equipment a little better when you're not moving around. But when you're out where you guys are, you're constantly exposed to the elements: dirt, wind, snow, rain.
It can cost you your life. Literally, when you deal with, hypothermia kills hunters every year.
Right.
Not being layered up right, and it kills a lot of camera equipment, rain, wind, fine sand, things like that, dust, those are camera killers.
Right. How do you protect against that? Or do you even have a strategy, or you just
Yes,
just figure
I do.
Things are going to get beat up and destroyed, and you just have to be able to buy the next one?
Pretty much, you have to be ready to know at any time when you think everything's going perfect, that you're probably going to hurt your camera somehow. Yeah. I have guys that run over them all the time. They set their camera behind their car or truck, and they forget about it, and they get in the truck, and they back up, and they're like, oh, my gosh, did I just run over my camera? I have a good friend of mine that just ran over his camera the other day, and I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I hope that never happens to me. But I know it happens to a lot of people. But no, I think to protect against, there's a lot of different covers and cases that you can, Pelican cases or, different cases of that style that you can put, your camera gear in. But when we travel and stuff like that, we try to protect our stuff or take it as carry-on. I think, plus we travel so much when we film, but when we're up against the elements like in Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, wherever, a lot of times we've got, believe it or not, there's something I carry outside of a thing that protects my. It's like basically a camera. I guess like a sleeve that kind of covers up your camera and keeps it, from the elements. What I usually do is I take like a trash bag with me, and I always have like a trash bag with me, whether a little black trash bag. And when it starts to like downpour, like I've been in the Alaskan Peninsula, and it dropped a couple inches in 2 hours. I always had that with me, and it saved my camera gear. I can't even tell you how many times. So
just a basic trash bag.
Just a basic trash bag.
Household trash bag.
That's it. Just throw it right over your camera, and it doesn't matter. It's keeping it nice and dry.
Right.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
It works. It's cheap too.
It's cheap and
cheap protection.
Exactly. That's very cool.
Yep.
So where you're hunting, does scent matter as much as it does in, like, if you're trying to sit in a tree stand for a whitetail?
I play the wind out west a lot. Pretty much I live by the smoke bottle, little bottle, smoke in the bottle or whatever. Yeah. I live and die by that. Not to say that I don't try to, take every precaution I can to try to, stay scent free. But let's face it, when you're climbing a hill in the middle of the dark, let's say 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're hiking up to your elk spot and you've got to climb 2,000 vertical feet, you're going to sweat. Yep. And when you get there, you've got to peel off layers and then start hunting because the bull's bugling below you. You've just got to, we play the wind a lot. Now, I do have a self-climber that I've taken into areas, for water holes and things of that nature. And, they're not so far off the beaten path that I'm going to sweat so bad going in. So I'll just get to there, to do the self-climber, and still try to get where I place that usually is on a prevailing wind, and it usually is downwind of the water hole. I try to get it to where, I think the elk are going to be coming from, and they may not, and I'm high enough up that they may not smell me. I did I think it was like 3-4 years ago, I had a self-climber that I set up on a water hole, and I had a great big 7x6 bull coming in around 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, it was a done deal. It's walking down the whole 18 yards. Then suddenly the cow turned off and went up the hill behind me. And I'm all dialed in. I'm like, oh, this is not happening. And I had my protective, the harness on, and I tried to kneel down, and I'm trying to get a shot on this big bull as he's coming in behind me, and all I could see was his legs go by, and I'm just bummed. I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. The wind was good, it was in our face, and I'm like, okay. So all of a sudden, about half hour later, here comes a really big chocolate-faced black bear, and I had a black bear tag in my pocket. So he's walking down this trail right to the water, and he literally stopped at 18 yards. I cow called. He kind of looked at the base of my tree, had no idea I was there. Boom, double lunged him. He went 70 yards, was dead in stone. And that was my first archery bear in Montana. Wow. I was actually out trying to kill a bull with my bow.
I think that happens.
It happens.
Way things happen in nature.
Yeah, so play the wind. That's the number one key, I think, out west. Yeah.
Do you feel like you get winded more because you have to carry all this odd scented camera equipment, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like it's so outside of, I think there's a lot of scent that, gets carried on, like the eye cup or, some of the things that on my shoulder, we sweat, we use the same thing over and over, even though we wipe it down and clean it up. I still think that a lot of the time that my camera gear does give off a little bit, maybe more human scent because, I've got my eye up against the eye cut, the viewfinder or whatever it is, or and I think that there are times when that gives me away, I think, too. Human scent, no matter which way it's carried, they're going to get you, it's just, it's hard to beat that, their noses are 10 times or 1,000 times stronger than ours.
Gotcha. I want to turn the mic over to Dusty here for a little bit. And
Dusty.
I'd like to go on a deer hunt.
Yeah, we can break that down. Where we headed, Jim?
Oh, let's see. Where do you want to hunt?
Let's get into one of your most memorable whitetail hunts.
Oh, man. I'll tell you a really good whitetail story. So this involves...
Break it down. We gotta know when and where.
Okay, so this was five falls ago. Jen and I, it was her first season in Montana, and we were up Gold Creek, which is western Montana outside of Missoula, west central, and it's early morning and just to break a light. Go back a year. I was chasing about a 190-inch public land whitetail in that area the year before, just so you know.
Nice.
Yep. He ended up getting taken by some guy that happened to be driving an old logging road during the rut, and some kid killed him. He was in the paper, but his genes were in that area, and I told Jen, I said, hey, I want to take you to this area where I was chasing this big buck, and I know there's some good bucks in here. So we go hiking into this. It's imagine giant logging roads and trail, open clear cuts, and then timber stands, and you've got Doug fir, lodgepole, larch, a lot of buckbrush and things of that nature. And so it's early morning, and we hiked across this creek, and we headed up the mountain, and it was starting to break light, and I saw some does. So I'm like, hey, there's 8 does right there. There's got to be a buck here close by. Well, so we started working up to where we could get basically a little bit better view. They're still off about probably, 400 yards. We closed the distance to about 250 yards, and I'm just starting to peek over to where I'm thinking, these deer are, and Jen is like, there goes a big buck. And literally, all you can see is a rack going, tail between his legs, and he's full bore, and now one of the fun things that Jana will tell you about me, if there's a deer holding still, I'll miss it. If it's running, it's pretty much dead. And anyway, so long story short, I pulled out the old Marine Corps card, dropped to my knee. He was about 200 and some yards away, and left right to left, broadside running. I led him about a foot, dropped the hammer, heart shot him, and folded him in mid-flight. Okay. And Jana was like looking at me like, wow. I'm like, what? She goes, you dropped that thing? I was like, yeah. I was like, she goes, you're right. Running shots, you don't miss. I'm like, well, instinct, just comes into play. I shoot a lot of moving targets. And so for me, I practice those shots all the time. So for me as a hunter, I know I'm going to make that shot. So Jana's like, wow. So we get over to this deer, and it's not the biggest buck on the planet, but it's probably like a 135-inch whitetail, and beautiful 5-point. And we go up, we get to it, and I'm like, I go, Jana, I don't think I brought my knife. She goes, what? I said, yeah, my son took it out of my pack because he was working on a buck that he had shot. He was cleaning the skull or something. She goes, yeah, I thought you had the knife. I'm like, oh no. So here we are, 2 pro hunters, no knife. Thank God there's a hunter came along, and he's like, hey, I heard the shot. I'm like, hey, I got this buck. Hey, can I borrow your knife? So long story short, so he basically lets us skin the buck out, or get the buck out, and we drag it out. And so we're tired. We drug it a long ways, about a mile and change to where our truck was. And so we're on our way out, and I remember Jana's like, well, I know we're beating everything, but let's just take one more, we'll just glass this one more ridge. So we go out on this little logging road point. We start glassing around, and I'm looking across this massive canyon, and up behind us, she's like spots like the Hartford buck. I mean, it's like up on the point, looking at us, like all, perfect, like right out of the movie or whatever. Or the commercial. Yeah.
The Hartford buck. That was a perfect description. I know exactly what you just said.
Exactly. Right. She's literally, she's like, it was so ironic. And so she goes, can we get to that deer? I'm like, yeah, we can get to that deer. So he's way up on this mountain, and, he's a real nice buck. And so we make a play, and it's vertical. I'm like, she goes, man, these mountains are kicking butt. It's like, well, we just got to go straight up this ridge. We can hit this logging road. We'll crawl out this old skidder trail, and, it's all downfall on it. We got to be real careful getting through it. And we look, and he's bedded 250 yards away. We get right up to where we have no cameras. This is nothing is being filmed, just so you guys know. We're like, we don't even have cameras with us. We're just out having a great time hunting, which is kind of nice. And so we crawl out to the end of the logging road, and it's an old skidder trail underneath a couple blowdowns that had fallen over the skidder trail. We call skidder trail. It's like where they pull logs up and down or whatever. And
right. Yeah,
you get it. So we look across and he's bedded, like facing our way, but not really looking at us. And, perfect, he's broadside to us. So I get her all lined out down for 250 yards and boom, she shoots him. And he just rolls down the hill. And we both look at it like, great job. You got your, and then we're like, we got the deer. We're like, okay, we got to go across the canyon. We celebrate a little bit. And we get over to where he was and we're like, where is he? And we're like, I don't know. Where is he? So we're doing like circles. We're like, okay, here's where he was. Okay, we shot. There's no blood. What the heck? I saw him fold. We're looking. Well, he had slid down underneath some brush and was like buried in the brush. You couldn't even see him. We found him. He was like hanging by his rack underneath this tree, and he was at the base of this tree. And we found him. He was like just went down like 50 yards. So we both get him. We're like, this is great. I'm like, I don't have a knife. No knife.
I knew it was something.
So here we are again. We're like, okay, so what do we got to do here? It's like, well, we got to drag him over to here, and then we got to drag him out. We drugged that deer all the way out, probably close to a mile without a knife, and loaded a hole in the back of my truck. And we both killed 2 bucks. So I wrote an article for, I think it was in Buckmasters. It was 2 bucks, 2 bullets, one morning. And that was what it was titled, and it came out in, I think, Buckmasters. So that was a story of those 2 bucks, and it was a great hunt. It was one of my favorite hunts, because we were just having a great time together without the pressure of having to produce a show, and and although we didn't have a knife, and I got my kid the next day for that. I'm like, hey, put the knife back when you're done next time.
Right, but right. It seems like when you go out on a hunt like that, it comes out with an epic story that you wish you had on film.
Oh, totally. I mean, the whole knife thing is just we still laugh about it. So we have a diorama where we have both those bucks mounted together on this cool fence post with like, cottonwood, like yellow cottonwood, limbs behind them. And it's every time we look at that, we remember that hunt together and how great it was. Our first hunt out west together.
Yeah, that's very cool. Great story.
Yeah,
very cool story.
It was a lot of fun. Definitely.
The Hartford buck, and don't forget your knife. Gotcha.
Don't forget your knife. Yeah, trust me, I have 2 or 3 in my pack now. There's no way I'd forget the knife after that deal.
The moral of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool, Jim. So I have 10 rapid-fire questions for you, Jim.
Sure.
And I didn't prep you for this, so
no worries.
They roll off the tongue better if you don't know what's coming.
I love that.
Although if you've listened to Jana's show, you probably know what's going on. So hopefully you haven't listened to the end of Jana's show.
No, I haven't heard. I don't think I have.
All right, good. All right, what's your number one hunting tip of all time?
My number one hunting tip of all time, I would say carry a GPS with you and mark your truck.
That's a good. Where you are, that is a very good piece of advice.
Yeah, because when the weather rolls in, if you can't find your way back to your truck and all you can see is you have no landmarks, it can cost you your life. Yeah,
that's right. Yep. All right, so we all have these things that we are consider good luck charms or something of that nature. Maybe they make us better hunters, or maybe we just think they make us better hunters. And when we forget it in the truck or leave it at home, it drives us insane. What's that one thing for you?
My camera.
Your camera.
I have my camera with me. I'm always going to come home with the footage I need, no matter what. I always have it with me.
Right, gotcha. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
Improvise, adapt, overcome. I always say that when I say pet peeve, it's like improvise. You can overcome anything, no matter what the situation is. Adapt to it, and you can overcome anything. I mean, I learned that from the Marine Corps. That's a pet peeve of mine. I say it all the time to people, and so improvise, adapt, and overcome.
That's one I like a lot myself. Very nice. All right, so how old are you today, Jim?
47.
47. All right.
Going on 48 in October.
All right. Congratulations. You're right there with my age. That's
all right.
Good. So what would you tell the 26-year-old Jim Kinsey, knowing what you know today about everything?
Boy, I would say listen to your elders, listen to the people around you that have been there before you and done, what you may be doing now. Just be a real good listener and don't talk so much.
I like that. Very nice. All right. You meet a complete stranger in a hotel lobby at a hunting convention somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. They ask you what you do for a living. What do you tell them?
Complete stranger. I would probably tell them that I do outdoor television.
Okay. But
I wouldn't try to carry on too long of a conversation.
Walk away as soon as you possibly can.
Exactly.
That's great. All right, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning I had a power bar and coffee.
Very nice. You get your own blank billboard. What do you put on that billboard?
Life's a fight, open the cage.
All right. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
That's a great question. Oh, this one kind of stumps me in a way because there's so many people I want to say successful.
Right.
Really, I would say Jana's super successful. She's gone so far beyond anybody that I know or have ever been, around in such a short amount of time that her success, has really helped lead to our success. But she's definitely probably the most successful person I know.
Very nice. What is a day in the life of Jim Kinsey look like?
Oh, day in the life of Jim Kinsey. Wake up around during show season or
well, let's do off season. Like what do you do when you're relaxing?
Off season? Well, I'll tell you today I slept until 8 o'clock, which is very rare. Okay. I slept until 8 today, got up, had a cup of coffee, answer a bunch of emails, work on contracts for season 6 of Skullbound TV, start editing for season 6. I take a lot of phone calls all day long with my producers in Nashville. I've got a lifestyle brand company, so I'm talking about that a lot, with the new fulfillment center and trying to get all those things going while I'm doing my day job, which is Skullbound.
Okay. And let's say you're in the middle of the season, you're actually hunting. What's a deer hunting day in the life look like?
Ooh, early morning, way early, like 4:30 a.m. wake up.
Yep.
Some of the areas we have to drive to can be, anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hour drive. Get there at the crack of dawn, start putting the optics vortexes to hitting the landscape and starting to try, basically during November, trying to find big whiteys or muleys on the move and how to cut them off, shore up that distance, and make an ethical shot on them.
Gotcha. All right. And that concludes the 10 rapid fire questions. Well done, Jim.
I appreciate you guys having me on the Big Buck Registry. It's been awesome.
We're psyched to have you. Before we let you go, can you fill us in on where we can find on social media, iTunes, whatever it is, all the different places that you're involved, whether it be the TV show, writing, or songwriting or music?
Yeah, so our show is skullboundtv.com. That'll fill you in on our latest information about our show, when we air, what we do, our sponsors and so forth that help us bring that to the TV every week during quarter 1 and 2. And then I've got openthecagegear.com, which is a lifestyle brand that I started here about 2 years ago. And on there you'll also find our record, a little bit more about our record label. And iTunes, you can look up the Overcome album by Michael Connors. That's Connors. The album is Overcome, and we're on Pandora. We're on basically every music service on the planet carries, has all of our songs on that album and some other singles I've done. I've done a couple of songs, The Legend about Chris Kyle and some other ones too. So you can find anything you want there. Just look me up on iTunes or Michael Connors on iTunes and look up the Overcome album. That's our big album that just dropped.
Nice. Very nice. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jim. It's been just an honor to have you on the show, and I got to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of what happens on Skullbound, because it's we love talking to Jana too. We love talking to both of you guys. Yeah,
Jay and Dusty, I appreciate both you guys so much for having me on today, and definitely looking forward to if you ever need us in the future, we're here. So we'd love to come again.
I think that if I could hang out with Jana Waller and Jim Kinsey on a vacation, it might be like just the best vacation I've ever had. They're just quality individuals. I just like them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. They're just people that, real fortunate that we've talked to Jana face to face and we haven't met Jim, but man, I tell you, they're genuinely people that we see eye to eye with, Jay, and people that we could spend quite a bit of time with.
I couldn't agree more. I love what they're doing for the world, and they have great talents and music and hunting. It's just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. It's a hard act to follow, Dusty, but do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week?
Yeah, we do, and
the Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Sportsman.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
Something that that's kind of near and dear to my heart that I try to do every year, and that's set up a youth hunt with a new and up and coming hunter that's maybe never killed their first white-tailed deer. Set that up early in the season and get that youth hunt set up. And to me, it's more important than my whole season is to have that opening morning a youth deer gun season lined out with somebody that's either never been to the woods or hasn't had the opportunity to kill an animal to put meat in the freezer with. And that's something that I focus on every year, and I try to do every year is take a youth hunter to the woods. And I set that up now, and then I'm set for when that day comes that I know that I'm going to stop my hunt for the year and focus on trying to get that young man or woman their first whitetail deer. It just holds a special place in my heart. Take a youth hunter out and try to kill their first deer.
That's something I look forward to every single year now as well. It was a time when I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about just getting my own deer. But these days, that's pretty much all I think about. I try to get them out first, like you do, and then maybe I'll get lucky down the road.
Yeah, just that it really does hold a special place in your heart once you do it once. If you haven't done it, take it in consideration and put the youth before you and focus on taking them. I try to take them to my best spot, and if they kill that giant, that's just an icing on the cake for me. Because man, it would just thrill me to death to have a youth hunter kill a monster white-tailed deer. Their first deer can be a butt buck, and in their eyes, it's a monster. Really, it's a real cool experience, and it's something that I can't tell you to go do it or force you to go do it. But once you've done it, it'll hold a special place in your life every year.
Right, very much so, very, very much so. So, Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here talking to me on the microphone on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast?
Facebook.com/Chubby Times Outdoors. You can shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com, or hit me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
A couple places. You can always shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. You can always give us a call at 724-613-2825. And if you'd like to participate in the greater of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast, we have a tremendous Facebook page, and that's over at bigbuckregistry.com/Facebook. We've got some followers on Twitter and Instagram, and likewise, it's twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. Instagram, same thing. You can follow us now on iTunes, so if you're an iTunes user or an Apple user, give us a review. If you like the show, leave us a 5-star and subscribe to the show. You can also find us on iHeartRadio. That should be out any day now. It's been about 3 weeks, so we will be featured in iHeartRadio. Just another great app that you can get on just about every phone you have, so that you can take this show and go mobile and listen to it in your car or at the gym or wherever you'd like to listen to. Maybe you're commuting back and forth to work, whatever. It will be available to you in all kinds of places. We're on Stitcher, we're on Blueberry, we're on Libsyn, we're on pretty much every place podcasts are hanging out. That's where we are at. So I think that's pretty much a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
It is. So I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, powered by USA Trail Cams. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.